are. My team complimentary will accomplish their pledge and Sandra is in song.
Would you join me in spirit of prayer? Eternal God, we give you thanks for the blessings of this day, this beautiful, cool, seasonal day, this time of year in Texas. We give you thanks for the great holiday that we just celebrated, and the weather was just gorgeous, and we were able to be outside with our families and celebrate. We give you thanks for this club, what it means to our community, those who recognize today, our speaker today. We ask your Spirit to bless all of them, to bless us, our club, and its work in this community, and to bless this food, and to take it to the nourishment of our bodies, and keep us in your peace. In the name of Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic which stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You and Sandra.
Deck the halls, let them sing. Deck the halls with boughs of wine. Sing to be jolly. Good job.
Thank you, Neil. We are officially in the Christmas season. I want to remind all of you that our annual Christmas program is 2 weeks from today on Thursday, December 17th. The Davidsons will be singing for us that day. We'll be a great program. I invite you to bring your spouse, bring a guest, bring your office members, and we'll look forward to a great celebration. Well, we've got a couple of things on our agenda today before our speaker. But let me first of all let John Van Buren give us a quick update. I told him he could use the microphone.
I'll grab it just a second.
I'm still going to hold it. I just said you could use it, all right?
Okay. Sorry, Chris. This may take 10 minutes away from your talk. Just for those of you who don't know, Irving lost another one of its giants last Sunday. A friend of mine, I'm sure a friend of yours, Clyde Deloach. I came here from New York. Clyde came from Alabama, ran all the way. He was a runner. He for years sang with the Singing Men of Texas. He was at one time, I think, president of Irving School Foundation. He was a longtime member of this club. I think Clyde was proudest of was a 2-hour and 32-minute time in the Boston Marathon, which is a pretty outstanding feat. Services for 5. There's a visitation at 10 o'clock, followed by a funeral service, memorial service at 11 on Tuesday, the 8th. That's next Tuesday at MacArthur Boulevard Baptist Church. And y'all are welcome. And I know his wife, Becca, welcome many of you would like to come and just tell her how much you remember about Clyde.
Thank you, John, for keeping us updated there. And we do need to remember Clyde's family and Becca in our prayers. Well, I'm going to ask former President Rick Lindsay to come join me. We've got a couple of really great recognitions to do. We made you as a club aware a few weeks ago, but we wanted to, as we kind of lead up to our 85th anniversary of our club, we've been wanting to recognize some of those individuals that have made significant contributions. A few weeks ago, we were able to recognize Clint Howard. We were able to recognize Ken Lancaster. And today, we're going to recognize former Mayor Dan Matkins. Dan, if you'll come forward, I've got a short, well, you want to do your thoughts first, and then I'll do mine. You may, please do that.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would like to just follow up on the comment John made about Clyde Deloach. If you were in the Tuesday Rotary Club, you'll remember that we did the Irving Christmas Classic for about 20 years, generating funds, and Clyde always handled all the trophies and trophy presentation as well as Brandon. So he was a great member of the Grand Prairie Rotary Club, but also a member of this city and our club. So yeah, keep them in your prayers. Well, our guest today, we have Oscar Ward, City Councilman. Oscar, thank you for being here today. Let's give him a round of applause. Thank you. Ms. Aaron, also always a pleasure to see you. Asked Mayor Matkin to introduce his family here in just a minute. Joe Lopez, thank you for being here today, as always. And of course, then we have some of our other city council. Mayor, thank you for being here and today. And Councilman Zabak, thank you for being here. So let's give all of our guests a round of applause. Thank you for coming. Well, it's an honor and a privilege for me to stand up here beside Mayor Matkin and the President also. And I want to take you on just a quick journey. So just drive into Irving on 183 from Dallas and think about Highway 183 and the construction 2 or 3 times since you've been involved in impacting the infrastructure of Irving. We currently now have the superhighway that we all dreamed of back in the 90s. So if you looked over to the right, you would have seen, remember the old Texas Stadium. I think you probably had your hand involved in Texas Stadium and bringing the Cowboys to the city of Irving. Drive on down 183 and the interchange at Beltline. I'm guessing you helped get that interchange. Yeah. Going out west, there was 17,000 acres of cotton fields out there that now is the largest airport in the world, DFW. That all happened since you came to Irving. I'm sure you were involved. So then just make that loop. In the city. I think you and I worked on the new police station down on O'Connor. What I'm trying to do is paint a picture that since I've been here, we moved here in, I don't know, I was like 2 years old, but you've been impacting this city my whole life. I raised my children here.
Went to high school here.
Yeah, you did? Okay, I see that would have been on 6th Street.
Say that again.
Was that on 6th Street, the high school?
Yes, it was.
Yeah. Okay, excellent. Well, it's an honor for me today to recognize you with a legacy award. It is the first one that this club has presented.
Wow.
So would you like to introduce your family right fast before I start? Your family, you want to introduce your family that came? All right, go right ahead. Here you go.
There's my wife, Arlene. She usually comes up here. She's right there with me. And let's see, I got Mitzi over here, our daughter. And Mike over here, our son. We have one more son that's hiding somewhere.
There we go.
This is John. That's Mitzi's husband. Who else we got? That's it, I think.
All right.
So it's a good group.
It is a good group. And you've got Melissa, who we all know. Where's she now? The SEMA Club?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're
She couldn't be here because of that.
good.
And who else, Tom? I guess that's it.
That's it. All right. Mayor, thank you for introducing. I'm going to give you a chance to make some more comments in just a second, but I want to get this thing rolling. Is that all right? I'm going to get this rolling, and I'm going to read you what this award said. All right. It says Community Legacy Award presented to Mayor Dan Matkin for 50 years of club membership and unselfish service to our club and leadership as a club president in 1989 and 90. with deep appreciation for your commitment and dedication to the ideals of Rotary, attendance, and support for the 5 avenues of service. Dan, your contribution to the growth of the Dallas-Fort Worth region economy and ongoing vibrancy has been outstanding. Your commitment to the governance, business expansion, economy has been legendary. It is a pleasure, honor for me to thank you, and the Irving Las Colinas Rotary Club thanks you for all your years of service.
With or without mask? You can take your mask off if you want.
I won't breathe. Okay, at this point, I'd like to ask Mayor, would you like to come up and make some comments? Oscar and Councilman Zapanta, if you'd like to come up and make brief comments, we'll get a picture with all of us together, please.
Mayor?
Well, good afternoon, everyone. It's truly a privilege to be here. Chris and I were just on a Zoom call, so I was a few minutes late. But when I think of Dan, he's been one of the pioneers of the city of Irving. And I've been so blessed and fortunate to have his advice and guidance as I've been mayor. And it goes back to so many things, as Rick talked about. But when you look at building like Cooper, Chapel, whichever you want to call it, and the pipeline, continuing over a 40-year time frame to build a lake, provide a pipeline, and actually have our own water brought to our city so that we were able to have some of the lowest water rates in the area. We actually sell our water to Dallas, they treat it and sell it back to us, cheaper than they sell it to their own residents in Dallas. Dan has had a hand in that as well. Dan was also involved with Tom Vandergrift back when COG was set up. Tom Vandergrift back when COG was set up. He was one of the first presidents of the Council of Governments. And he set a pace that is still there today of bringing the region together and making sure that our road system works. Another opportunity I have is serving on the dartboard. Right in our office that we have is a picture of Dan and some of our other individuals with our bond counsel at that time, Ray Hutchison, selling the first bonds for the DART expansion and was founded. So Dan's been very integral in water, bus, rail, and transportation.
Right.
And we're continuing to have the success in our community that we have, and the allure that we have, the business comes to our community, is because of the 3 things that I just talked about, that Dan was very instrumental in starting the regional cooperation that we have, the roads that we have, the rail that we have, and the water that we have. So Dan, thank you so much. It's truly a privilege for me to be here with you today.
Thank you very much.
I was raised here in Irving, went to high school here. A lot of people don't realize that down on South Valley Way. And it's been really fun. It's pretty rural back then. Several of these big streets now that are paved weren't. So it's been a really marvelous time. Like many of you, we've been at Arlington State College. I did with Arlene. And we've been great growing up together here in this area. I wander up here. She doesn't follow my instructions. Like many of you. Anyhow, it's been a marvelous time. I'm so happy to be with all you folks. Mayor, Congratulations. If you need any help, call Irving.
Thank you.
I think the mayor covered the background pretty well. I came to Irving as a young engineer in '67. So we took Irving Daily News, and Dan met me. So I followed his career as mayor and city council through Irving. I remember so exciting that Texas Stadium comes along, Dallas Cowboys come to Irving, Texas. And fast forward till today, I live on Farine Drive, and I got to know Dan. He lives a couple of streets over on McCoy. You know, we have a very active neighborhood association, Garden Village Neighborhood Association. Got to know Dan a little more personal at that time in Early, and I can't tell enough good things about this man that he's contributed to the city. His service at ICBB is outstanding. I go to that a lot, and we miss you there, Dan. And so just wanted to tell you congratulations, and keep coming back to Rotary every now and then. So in Cardinal Village Association, we got 3 mayors. There's Roy Brown, remember Roy Brown, Marvin Randall, and Dan Metkin. So it's a great city to live in, and I do appreciate everything you've done for the city. Thank you, Dan.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good to have a councilman.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Well, it's not only an honor, but it's a pleasure. But I just want to say a couple of things. First off, if you ever think about running for office, talk to Irving Metkin. Because thank God I did that. And so I want to say that she's the real power behind, as they say, the woman sometimes. He knows that. The second thing is, his family's here. I want to tell you that 2 things. One is, don't ever play poker with Dan and Mike, because they got you squeezed between the 2 of them. And I think my friend over here, Ed Carter, will tell you that. So we enjoy playing, and I've learned more about Irving at that table with the 8 of us as to a lot of the leadership and the history of Irving. But when I first got here, Rochelle and I, Dan was one of the first people that kind of took me under his wing and kind of said, you know, you need to be more involved. And the rest of us history, that was 16 years ago. But it's because of the leadership. I'm also, you know, I always think about the Cowboys and what Dan's play was and part of that. And after being at the game Thursday, I'm kind of glad we don't have them in our own stadium anymore, because that was a terrible game. I'm kidding. If we would have had Dan Metkin as mayor, I think they'd still be with us. But I want to thank you and Erlene and your whole family, your special people, ADB, Rochelle, and I, that much more welcome. So thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Councilman Ward. Thank you, Councilman Zapata. Well, I would also like to do a shout out for Miss Irving, because when I called, she's the one that I got Dan handed me off to, and I told her what we wanted to do. And in a very cheerful, beautiful voice, she said, we would love to help Dan come to the Rotary Club. So would you stand and let us please recognize and thank you for making this event possible. So thank you. Okay, Mr. President, I'll turn it back to you, or?
You can go right into our speaker, sir.
Again.
Okay. Thank you, Dan. Thank you. Oh, yes, let's do that real quickly. Here you go, everybody. 3, 2, 1. To all of you, Dan, thank you for coming. You did.
Okay, well, while Dan's making it back there, let's give him another round of applause and thank you. Well, it is a real pleasure for me to introduce a fellow Rotarian, member of this Rotary Club, Mr. Chris Wallace. Chris was named President and CEO of the North Texas Commission in June of 2018. The commission drives large, impactful projects and legislative issues benefiting our 13-county region. The commission manages our region's unified advocacy voice at the state and federal level. You're gonna be standing there, wow, this is a long mile now. Oh, you're saying cut it off? Cut it off. Well, let me just say that Chris Wallace has been in Irving. Were you raised here? Huh? Okay, in Denton, that's right. But Chris has been here for a long time. I learned a lot the year I was the chairman of the chamber because I got to serve with Chris Wallace, and he led Las Colinas Association for many years. He says cut it off. I got 2 pages, but I'm gonna cut it off, turn it over to Chris. We look forward to what you're gonna tell us about the legislative agenda for next year. Chris Wallace.
Great, thank you very much. Get situated here. Thank you all very much. It's certainly great to come home to my Rotary Club. Very proud to be an Irving resident. I want to introduce to you one of my colleagues from the commission, Patrick Brophy. Patrick heads up all of our legislative planning for our state and federal agendas, helps me with management and so forth of our lobby teams in Austin and in DC. And Patrick worked on several campaigns for mayor in Dallas, and many of you remember Pete Sessions, one of our congressmen from our region, now from Waco region, just re-elected back to Congress. Patrick was with Pete for a long time as well. So I'm going to skip over, I've asked Jordan to skip over several of the introductory slides on the commission and the region, a quick video. But I'm going to refer to you to this magazine that's at your places. It has all of the regional profile information. Please take a look at that. I know last time I spoke, almost a year ago, we talked a lot about regional profile data. And so I'm going to skip over that so we can get right into the session. I want to thank, first and foremost, Mayor Stover. Thank you for your leadership, sir. Many of you may not be aware, but not just leading in what he and the council do here in Irving, but Mayor Stover is co-chair of our Mayor's Economic Recovery Council for the entire region, the 13-county region. He co-chairs that with Mayor Betsy Price in Fort Worth. They just had a call today. They meet every other week. We started this when we took a leading role in the COVID response and recovery for the region. Bringing all of our 13-county judges together, bringing all of our mayors together, for consistent messaging and strategy on COVID response and recovery. This was prior to the governor's executive order, and they continue those meetings today to benchmark, to talk with one another about consistent messaging and strategies for each of their communities. So, Rick, thank you, Mayor. Thank you very much for that. Let me dive right into the recent election. We are very proud of our E2E, employer-to-employee tools to get people out to vote. Let me just give you some examples quickly on what we saw in this last election. 11.3 million Texans voted. That was a record, as you heard in the media quite a bit. And we were very proud of that. We have, there was a lot at stake going into this last election. We had numerous issues in terms of, we had a competitive presidential race. We had a competitive Senate race in Texas, which doesn't happen too often. We had the U.S. congressional control at play, the Senate at play, which is still at play. We had the drama over the Texas House Speaker, which is now resolving itself with a presumptive Speaker Phelan, and massive voter trends in terms of massive turnout across our entire region. But 11.3 million Texans voted and set a record. Republicans swept all statewide races again. There was no net change to Republicans in the House majority, and 83-67 House majority. Republicans lost 1 Senate seat. Roland Gutierrez lost down in central South Texas. And so they still hold the 18-13 majority, although not a super majority in the Senate. And of course, our congressional delegation remains the same, 36 congressional members throughout the state with 23-13 split there. We have 4 new members of Congress from our region. We are oriented. We stayed very close to many of them during the campaign, so we're talking with them a lot. We have 7 new House members in our region. As you may be aware, we have 41 total. We have 9 senators, and 1 of them will be new. There's an open seat when Pat Fallon vacated his seat to go on to Congress. And so that is December the 19th is the runoff in that Senate seat. So all that being said, we've got several new House members, a new senator, and then 4 new members of Congress on the state and federal level that we are oriented. But thank you all for turning out to vote, a record number of votes. And also, too, thank you for all your work to make sure that we have a complete count on the census. We had about 64% self-response rate in this year's census, this decade census. If you look at the remuneration where census workers come in and help augment that, we're at almost 100%, 99.5 or so percent of a complete count. So that's important because this session, every 10 years, we go through redistricting. And so the Republicans are going to have a solid control over redistricting with the session coming up. Probably will not be during the general session. It'll probably be during a special or a series of special sessions is what we predict. Let me dive right into the session. We can advance that. First and foremost, let me just hit on this briefly because I know you want to hear about the state session. But if you have not called your member of Congress, sent them an email, you can log on to our website. There's all types of tools for you to do that. Please do so because there is, as you're aware, there is another economic recovery package pending right now in Congress. There is a caucus called the Problem Solvers Caucus, which is a bipartisan. And there's about 9 members of Congress who have come up with a stimulus, still what I call a stimulus package. I think it's probably going to pass prior to the end of the year. We're very hopeful. We have a call today with Senator Cornyn to talk a little bit about that this afternoon. It's $908 billion, and it will certainly go a long way in terms of helping many of our stress industries to have another stimulus or economic recovery package. So please act on that, if you will. These are our federal legislation issues that we are targeting for the 117th Congress, which will kick off in January. Let me dive right into the state session in the time that we have. And Patrick's going to help me tag team because he handles a lot of these issues. We have several registered lobbyists in Austin and here in the region. Patrick's one of them, and Patrick handles a lot of our infrastructure, transportation issues, broadband issues, which is going to be very important. This session is going to be very challenging to us because of the pandemic. Access to the Capitol is going to be extremely challenging. Nobody knows yet what's going to happen in terms of registered lobbyists and the general public having access to the Capitol. Right now, only legislators and key staffers and invited people giving testimony can enter the Capitol. And that's my hunch is probably the way it's going to continue for a few months into the session when it starts the second week in January. You know, in terms of the legislature, there's 2 key things that they have to do during the session. One is they have to pass a budget, a biennium budget. And this session, they have to tackle redistricting. And so all hands on deck. The state's budget is roughly $250 billion. So that's going to be a challenge is how they allocate $250 billion, keeping in mind or top of mind COVID economic recovery. And augmenting what Congress is or is not going to be doing in terms of federal dollars, how can we allocate state dollars, particularly with a projected shortfall of about $4.5 billion is what Comptroller Hager predicts as of now. That could change come January with sales tax numbers obviously improving. Some have said that there won't be as many bills filed this session. I disagree with that. I think there's going to be as many, maybe a little bit lower in terms of bill numbers. Just as of yesterday, we have 739 bills filed in the House and just over 200 in the Senate. So that's on target, just like a, quote, normal session. But access is going to be the key. We have a new speaker, Dave Phelan from South Texas, Beaumont area. He has served, I believe, 4 terms now in the House. He was a past State Affairs Speaker or Chair. He's our what I call Speaker-elect. I think he certainly has the votes. If you look at in terms of the public record, in terms of media, there's about 83 House members who have signed on to presumptive Speaker Phelan's election, and about 20 of those are from our region, which is good news. So that gives you a little bit about the actual session. First and foremost, we're going to have to make sure that the session tackles our regional top 3 challenges. You can advance that slide. Workforce by far is our number 1 issue. Patrick will talk about this. Sustaining HB3. Landmark legislation from this last session is going to be first and foremost outside of economic recovery from COVID. We have to make sure we protect and sustain funding for our public schools and institutions of higher education. Infrastructure, which Patrick will talk about, and of course, housing attainability. So Patrick, you want to talk about a little bit about education and infrastructure?
Thank you, Chris. Hi, as Chris said, my name is Patrick Brophy, and I manage the stakeholder relations and legislative planning at the North Texas Commission. The North Texas Commission has been working for about the past 6 or 7 months preparing the state priorities which sit in front of you today. It's in that booklet, which has a very detailed, comprehensive list of all the priorities that we will be championing when we're down in Austin. Also with that is our Regional Chamber Coalition Top 10 Issues, which we like to refer to as the executive summary of that larger booklet that you see. And for those of you who are viewing on Zoom today, you can see these documents for yourself at our website, ntc-dfw.org, at the Advocate page, so you can follow along. As Chris mentioned, workforce is one of the top issues for the region. And as far as workforce development goes, the foundation that's laid there is in our public education systems, making sure that we sustain HB3, which is landmark legislation passed in the 86th session, to fund our public education system and provide for those K through 12 institutions. As you continue with education, we also need to make sure that we're providing for our institutions of higher education. We have many great partners in the region, UTD, UTA, UNT, TCU, SMU, great colleges and universities throughout North Texas that help us develop these higher education policies and have outlined the need for maintaining the formula funding to make sure that our higher education institutions can continue the great work they are and produce the research that they do, as well as educate the students there. This also overlaps with our community colleges, specifically with workforce development, our skills development fund, our SBDCs, which are small business development centers, and initiatives like the 60 by 30 and the 300 by 300, which is now named the Texas Reskilling and Upskilling Through Education Initiative. We need to make sure that as our population grows, we are educating and training the workforce as it comes in so that we can continue to recruit and retain the top employers that we have in the region, and that we grow that list of Fortune 500, which I believe is now 25 Fortune 500 companies in Texas. And that's because of the great workforce that we have here that we need to continue to sustain. Also, the mayor talked about it earlier. Another way to recruit businesses and get these large employers to come is to make sure that our infrastructure model is sound. We need to continue to support an integrated system of choice for the people of this region, whether that's high-speed rail, managed lanes, toll lanes, or making sure that we have enough water to support the growing population that continues to rise. These are all, as you can see, on our top 10 and as well in that booklet that we have made a priority for the upcoming session. And we're now in the process of meeting with those same groups that help develop these priorities at the state level, and we're focusing on the federal level as well, so that we're prepared for the 117th Congress and the new presidential administration to support the needs of the North Texas region as far as federal and state legislation. We also have issues that are focusing on diversity, keeping Texas open, making sure that we are welcoming to all walks of life, race, religion, what have you, so that we have no impediments into making Texas competitive on a national level and global level as well. I'm going to hand it back to Chris to make sure he can talk about the diversity and healthcare and other issues that are plaguing the region.
Thanks, Patrick. You know, Patrick mentioned our coalitions. I want to pause here just for a minute and give a shout out to the Irving Chamber. There are 102 chambers in our 13 county area, and 9 of them have government relations or lobby functions in-house and or they hire a lobbyist. Irving Chamber is one of those. And as you can see on the one pager of the summary that Patrick mentioned, those are the top 10 issues of the region. And you'll see a chamber name and contact by each of those. So each of those 9 chambers plus the commission as an association has adopted one of those issues. And they're right now doing briefing white papers. They're meeting with our 50 state legislators. They're going to be tracking these bills related to that issue. That has never happened before until this last session. And it worked very, very, very well. Now, what's new this session is the mayors under Mayor Stouffer and Mayor Price's leadership, the mayors, Mayor Johnson in Dallas and 40 plus mayors from around the entire region all signed a support letter supporting those top 10 issues. So now when we meet with our 50 legislators, we have a unified, what I call a unified megaphone, a unified voice saying, legislators, here are our region's priorities. We're on the same page. And they're in order, 1 to 10. Here they are. And so that is very, very significant leading up to a very challenging session. Let me talk a bit about local decision making. You can advance if you will. Thank you. Yeah, that's perfect. The local governments were under all-out assault this last session, as you heard me say before. And I think that will continue this session, unfortunately. That anti-local control, and we must continue to fight against that. Whether it be revenue caps, which we got stuck with this last session, and hopefully they'll be lowered. But some things that are going to be on the radar and are already is the inability for schools, school districts, for counties and cities to hire third-party lobbyists, to join forces with their Chamber of Commerce, for instance, to advocate on their behalf in Austin. And there is a national movement, and it's moved right here in our state to pass the legislature to not allow for public funding for third-party lobbying. Now that sounds pretty good, right? Once you dive into the details, to stifle a local elected official or superintendent's, county judge's voice in Austin when they should be here doing the jobs that we elect and hire them to do. They don't need to be down in Austin after hours and hours and days of hearings. They have to have a team to be able to do so. And that's what the local chambers, the Texas Municipal League, and third-party lobbyists provide for these entities. So that's a very real issue. Has not been filed yet, but we anticipate that bill to be filed. And there's some tweaks that we have to other pieces of legislation that were filed. There was a building products bill, House Bill 2439, which we are seeking some revisions to, or really an all-out appeal that impacts Irving and other cities. Councilman Ward and I were talking prior to the meeting about uniform election dates. That's very important. We saw that in this last election here, right here locally. And so we need local elections to happen in May, not in November, to keep partisan politics out of local elections, which is where they do not belong. Healthcare is another big issue of this session, not just because of COVID, certainly because of COVID too, but we have a waiver 1115, which is an assistance to our valuable assistance to our hospital systems. That is expiring. The governor and administration just put in a short-term extension. I'm not sure that we're going to be granted that extension or not with the new administration coming in, but regardless, it's time for Texas to come up with our own plan. What I'm talking about here is Medicaid expansion, and it's really recapturing our dollars in DC like we do on other state dollars that we send to DC, to recapture those dollars and bring them back to our state. You may not be aware, but we are one of 12 states, only one of 12 states who have not expanded Medicaid. And unfortunately, we are not just a little bit, but by far the highest state in terms of uninsured rates out of all the 50 states still today. And so Medicaid expansion and recapturing our dollars back to a Texas Medicaid plan is going to be a necessity. We did that very quick. And so let me open it up for questions, because I committed to stop right about 1 o'clock. And so what questions do you have related to anything about the 87th session? Yeah, please go ahead.
Well, as you continue to think about your question, like Chris said, we breezed through that, and I failed to bring up the last priority on that top 10 sheet, which is developing a broadband connectivity for the entire state. I'm sure you're all aware, because of the exposure that COVID has caused, the need for good broadband, high-speed internet is never more prevalent. And right now, as it stands, there are 1 million Texans who cannot get connection to the internet physically. They could not get it in their house. It is not an option for them. And then there's 30% of the state's population that does not have connection for one reason or another, whether it be they can't afford it, or they don't know exactly how to use it. Their skill level is not there. But that has been a major issue, and it also connects back not only with our infrastructure, but our education priorities as well, to make sure that people can earn a living and go to their job through internet connection, or for our school children that they can show up to class and learn virtually as well. Mm-hmm.
Please do rely on us. Call us anytime. We are an organization, as you know, that turns 50 this next year. And we were developed, as you know, in '71 to get DFW Airport up and running. And so, as Rick mentioned earlier, we are very proud that we have 60% of our stakeholders who are the larger employers, mid-sized businesses of the region, 40% public, so cities, counties, school districts, institutions of higher education. There's only about 6 organizations like ours in the entire country that we know of, particularly on our size. So it's a very unique association, public and private partnership, a true partnership that comes together to tackle the region's greatest challenges, and particularly as it relates to the advocacy. We have a great team in Austin. We have a great team here in the Metroplex, and we have a great team in DC. So please call on us to help you anytime we can. Yes, sir. Absolutely. Yeah, I think it will still be a state priority. I don't expect there to be as many bills filed as we had in the last 2 sessions in terms of border control. I, for one, think it still will be maybe not a top level priority, but a priority for the new administration in DC, particularly in terms of funding. We have a call today, as I mentioned, with Senator Cornyn, and we're talking a lot about immigration reform and comprehensive immigration reform in particular. But today we're talking a lot about DACA and the many, many thousands of dreamers who live right here among us, who work among us, who are high school graduates, many college graduates who have valuable jobs in our tech sector and others that we need to help augment, now not replace, but augment our workforce. And of course, the border and border control is certainly a part of that immigration discussion. We can't leave it out. So we are aware of it. It's not part of our legislative agenda on the federal side, nor the state side, but we're aware of it. We obviously stay close to that issue as it relates to immigration overall. Thanks for that question. Mayor, did you say something? Question.
Your leadership has brought 14 counties back together and really come up with one voice. It's going to be so important as we move forward. We will surpass Chicago as the fastest growing. We will be the 3rd largest
Thanks, Mayor. Thank you very much.
Chris, thank you. Appreciate you. Patrick, we're glad you were here. Jordan, do we have any questions from any of the people online? Chris, can you or Patrick stay around just a couple of moments if anybody has any questions afterwards? Well, I know we're a couple minutes over. We had a jam-filled program. The room's full. We had 41 people in the room, 15 people online. Just glad to have that many people involved with Rotary again. If you'll stand with me, our four-way test of the things we think, say, and do is going to be led by our own President-elect, Linda Despain. Linda? Is it true? Is it fair to all?
Fair to all concerned.
Third, better bridges. Fourth, unanimous, all concerned. Well, we thank you again. Mayor Matkin's already left, but we're glad that he was here. We appreciate the mayor and council members being here to help us with that recognition. Chris, Patrick, thank you. We'll have a few more questions for you in a moment. Be sure to take your magazine and all the things they put at your table. We are adjourned. All of you joining us online on Zoom, we're glad that you were here and part of the meeting. Hope you could hear well. If you have any